What's up everyone, it's Pejman, and welcome back to the channel. Now if you've ever looked at a line of HTML code and felt like it was speaking a different language, all those extra bits and pieces within the tags, then trust me, you're in the right place. Today we're diving deep into the world of HTML attributes and comments. These are like the hidden features, the power user settings, that can take your web development skills from basic to absolutely pro level. We'll break down what each of these attributes does, why they matter, and how you can use them to write cleaner, more efficient, and frankly more beautiful HTML code. So, let's jump into it. Alright, let's start with the fundamentals. What exactly are HTML attributes? Think of your HTML tags like nouns. They're the building blocks of your web page. Attributes, on the other hand, are like adjectives. They add extra information and modify those building blocks. They live inside your HTML tags, and they always come in key value pairs. Let's look at some examples. The srce attribute, short for source, is essential for images. It tells the browser where to find the image file you want to display. You'd use it like this. Then, there's the href attribute, which stands for hypertext reference. This one's crucial for links. You put it inside your tag and it tells the browser where to take the user when they click, like this. The ID attribute is like giving a unique name to an HTML element. It's super useful for targeting specific elements with CSS or JavaScript later on. For example, the class attribute is all about grouping. You can assign the same class to multiple elements, which is super helpful for applying styles or running scripts on a whole bunch of elements at once. Next up, we have the alt attribute, which is short for alternative text. This one's super important for accessibility. It provides a text description for images, which screen readers can use to help visually impaired users understand what's on your page. And those are just a few basic examples. There are tons of other useful attributes out there, and we'll be covering even more as we go along. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on the basics, let's talk about global attributes. These are like the universal settings of the HTML world. They can be applied to pretty much any HTML element you can think of. One example is the title attribute. This one's all about providing extra information about an element. Say you've got an image, you can use the title attribute to add a more detailed description that pops up when the user hovers over it. Then there's the style attribute. This one's huge for inline styling. It lets you apply CSS styles directly to an element without having to create a whole separate CSS file. It can be a bit messy if you use it too much, but it's super handy for quick styling tweaks. Another important one is the lang attribute, short for language. This one tells search engines and browsers what language your content is written in. It's super helpful for making your website accessible to a global audience. And there are a bunch of other global attributes out there, each with its own unique purpose. The key takeaway here is that global attributes give you this awesome flexibility to add information and functionality to virtually any element on your web page. Chapter 3. Best Practices Writing Clean and Efficient Code. Alright, so now you're armed with all this knowledge about HTML attributes, but with great power comes great responsibility. Let's talk about some best practices for using attributes effectively. First, consistency is key. Whether you're using double quotes or single quotes around your attribute values, stick with one style throughout your entire HTML document. It just makes your code look cleaner and more professional. Next, and this is a big one, avoid inline styles whenever possible. I know, the style attribute seems super convenient, but trust me, using external CSS files will make your life so much easier in the long run. Your code will be way more organized and maintainable. Speaking of organization, make good use of indentation. Just like with your other code, indenting your HTML elements and attributes makes it so much easier to read and understand your code. And here's a pro tip: validation is your best friend. There are awesome online tools that can validate your HTML code, making sure you're using attributes correctly and avoiding any syntax errors. Remember, writing clean and efficient code is all about making your life easier and ensuring your website performs at its best. Chapter 4. Adding comments, the unsung heroes of HTML. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground with attributes, but there's another crucial aspect of HTML that often gets overlooked: comments. Now, you might be thinking, comments? They don't even show up on the web page. What's the big deal? And yeah, that's true, comments are hidden from the user's view, but trust me, They are an absolute game changer when it comes to writing maintainable code. Imagine this, you're looking back at your code months later, or maybe even someone else is trying to understand what you wrote. Comments act like little notes to yourself or your future collaborators. You can use them to explain what a particular block of code does, why you chose a certain approach, or even just to leave reminders for future updates. Adding comments in HTML is super simple. You just wrap your comment text in these special tags. And the best part? The browser completely ignores anything between those tags, so it doesn't affect how your web page is displayed at all. Chapter 5: Why Comments Matter. Readability, Maintenance, and Collaboration. Now let's talk about why comments are so important. First and foremost, they drastically improve the readability of your code. When you're working on large, complex projects, comments help break things down into smaller, more digestible chunks. They provide context and make it easier to understand what's going on. And this leads directly to the second huge benefit: maintainability. When you or someone else needs to update your code down the line, having those comments there can save tons of time and frustration. They act like a roadmap, guiding you through the logic and thought process behind the code. But it's not just about you. Comments are essential for collaboration. When you're working on a team, clear and concise comments ensure that everyone is on the same page. Plus, comments can be super helpful for debugging. If you're running into an issue with your code, you can comment out specific sections to isolate the problem and figure out what's going wrong. So, yeah, even though comments might seem like a small thing, they can have a massive impact on the overall quality and maintainability of your code. Don't underestimate their power. And there you have it, your crash course in HTML attributes and comments. Seriously, these are the kinds of foundational concepts that can take your web development game to a whole new level. Remember to use those attributes wisely, keep your code clean and organized, and never ever underestimate the power of a well-placed comment. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more web development tips and tutorials. Leave a comment below if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover next. See you in